Welcome to IVF This, episode 62, Regret. Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. I'm a mother to two beautiful and feral boys. I'm married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go. Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you're doing very well. We are recovering from a house full of COVID from this past week or so. Amazingly, the only one that didn't get COVID was my 4-year-old. And the only rationale I have for this is that he's basically like a feral honey badger, which are pretty much immune to just about everything. But other than that, we are doing well. And I hope you are doing well and staying safe and healthy. Today, we're going to talk about regret, which is something that comes up for pretty much everybody. Now, a quick trigger warning, I'm going to talk a little bit about termination in this episode. I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but I think it's important that you know that it is going to be discussed a little bit. Now, there are a few areas where regret comes up with my clients and other women that I have talked to. And one of them is we should have started earlier, or we should have gone to the doctor sooner. Maybe you had a termination prior to your infertility journey, and there's a lot of shame and regret tied into that. Maybe you've had a miscarriage and opted for medical intervention, and there were complications from that, or vice versa. You didn't opt for medical intervention and there were complications. But first and foremost, we have to really understand that regret can truly come from any thought, but these are the ones that I hear the most frequently. So I've coached a lot of people who tell me something from their past, something that they did or something that they didn't do, and they tell me that they feel regret. Now, it's very important that you understand that regret is not coming from the thing that you did or the thing that you didn't do or the thing that happened in the past. It's not coming from the past. Regret doesn't just come up from the past and jump inside your body and make you feel anything. The regret that you are feeling right now is coming from a sentence or a thought that you are thinking right now about the past. But many of us believe that when we're feeling regret, that the sentence or thought is important or useful for us to think about. And I want to offer you that that's a lie. It's not important or useful for you to walk around thinking that the thing that you did, wishing you hadn't done it, or thinking about the thing that you did and questioning whether you should have done it or not, and generating this regret for yourself. It's not important. It's not responsible or useful in most cases. I don't typically give absolutes and say that it's never useful because who knows? We really have to take a closer look at that to determine it. But I will say that I can't think of any scenario right off the top of my head when regret is useful. I know that it feels that way. I know that it feels like you need to punish yourself, but you don't. Regret does not make what you did in the past or didn't do right, wrong, or anything else. All regret does is punish you and diminish your ability to be resourceful and creative and resilient and impactful today and going forward. That's it. It just makes you feel like crap. So let's use an example of not trying earlier or not going to the doctor sooner, because those are pretty typically related. Now, first off, those are lies. Like out and out lies, because that presupposes that there is a perfect time to start trying or a perfect time to seek out medical help. But that eliminates the nuance in literally everyone's lives. So let's talk about starting the family planning journey earlier. What is earlier? Give me a time frame. 5 years earlier? Were you in a place where starting a family 5 years ago was a safe option? Mentally, emotionally, physically, financially? If you go back 5 years, did you want kids then? I know you desperately want them now. And sometimes when we look back, we can conflate our current desires with our past. But really think about it. Were you even considering kids 5 years ago? We need to acknowledge that time scarcity is a real thing that plagues the infertility community. It isn't a figment of our imagination, but scarcity is typically a manifestation of wanting control, of wanting to feel safe, because scarcity doesn't feel safe. Typically, when we feel that sense of urgency to do something or getting something, it is because of how we think it will make us feel. And that comes with family planning. Money is also a huge source of scarcity. Now, I am not discounting that there are concrete scarcity concerns in this world: food, shelter, potable water. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a mental construct of scarcity that we tend to experience during infertility. Then there's this idea of we should have gone to the doctor sooner. What would that have looked like? Give me data. We have typical frameworks for when to seek out medical professionals, right? If you have been trying actively for a year and you're under the age of 35, then typically around 1 year mark, you'll go seek a professional. Ages 35 to 40, it's 6 months. Above 40, it's usually 3 months. However, that is a framework that not everyone chooses to follow. Again, because there's nuances in this world. Were you in a place to financially afford seeking out medical interventions? Were you in a place where you believed that to be a necessary step? I think I was at the doctor the moment the clock struck 1 year on us trying, but that's not the case for everyone. And that's perfectly fine. It's not meant to be for everyone. It's a guideline. I will always stand by the belief that the decision you make is the best decision because it was the one you made with the information that you had available to you at that time. Now, we are socialized and conditioned to second guess and not trust ourselves, especially as women. Thank you, diet and beauty culture, for the constant bombardment of how we have all of these flaws and someone else knows how to quote unquote fix them. But I digress, and I could digress on that one for a while, but it stands true. And that goes for any of the other examples I gave earlier. A big one is termination for literally any reason. Now, this is a judgment-free zone. There are reasons for termination medically, personally, and it's not my place to decide what is just and what is not. But there is a lot of guilt and shame that is carried by women with a history of termination, regardless of being on an infertility journey now or not. There are a lot of thoughts like, I had my chance, or that was my only shot. Now, the reason that I say that it's not useful or responsible for someone to walk around thinking this is because I don't have a time machine. Do you have a time machine? If you did, then maybe you would want to feel regret. Regret might feel useful in that particular situation. Maybe we would want to go back in time and not have that procedure, or not do something else, or do the thing that we think we should have done, right? But if you don't have a time machine, then there's literally 0 point in feeling regret. Regret does not make you a better person today. Regret does not help you find better resources, solutions, or most importantly, peace. So that's lie number 1. Regret is not as useful as your brain wants to believe it is. And this rolls right into the second lie of regret, which is that you should just feel it. I've heard clients say different versions of this, but it kind of sounds like it's just not fair for me to not feel it. It's not right for me to just let it go. I don't deserve to not feel terrible because of whatever it is that I did or didn't do in the past. I don't deserve better. There is this idea that you deserve the punishment of regret. You might not think about it in that way, but that can be what's happening. And this is, again, like this toxic culture trap. This is what culture and our primitive brains want you to believe. It's like, you don't deserve to feel any better. You screwed up. You're not a good person, clearly. Because if you believe that, guess what you'll create? That. You will create evidence for that. You'll continue to be in some version of that or another. It will keep you stuck if you believe that. So you don't have to earn the right to feel good, my friends. And you don't have to punish yourself by feeling bad. Those don't make an amends for anything. It really doesn't. So the third lie, which relates really closely to lie number 2. If I don't feel regret, then I'm going to keep making mistakes. Maybe even the same mistakes. It's interesting that this comes up a lot in weight loss, like all the damn time. If I did something that I think was terrible and I don't feel regret, then I'm going to keep doing that thing. But that's where I would say this is a lie, a complete lie. Do you know why we do quote unquote bad things? Because we feel bad. I know that sounds overly simplified, but it's the truth. We don't do quote unquote bad things when we're feeling good. I keep putting bad in quotes because bad is completely subjective. We have all of these kinds of verbiages around this when we talk about diet and exercise. I fell off the wagon. I screwed up and ate XYZ. I didn't go to the gym before or after work yesterday. Like your brain will come up with a ton of examples. Maybe it's not diet. Maybe it's supplements, or you have a really big goal this year or something. But it's just not true. No one ever became the best version of themselves by kicking the shit out of themselves. Now, it's absolutely true that you can lose weight, exercise, get pregnant, achieve a goal by kicking your own ass, by white knuckling it. But why would you want to if there's a different way? What if that different way is with love and compassion for yourself that actually feels good? Every one of us gets to decide what is good, what is bad, what is our best behavior, what is sabotaging behavior, what is morally right and wrong. All of that's up for grabs. But even if you want to decide that that was quote unquote bad, that that was wrong or evil, or that was just not what I wanted to do moving forward, feeling bad doesn't generate useful behavior going forward. It makes it much, much harder going forward, actually. It's not required to feel regret in order to completely abandon some kind of behavior that isn't serving you. You can feel commitment instead. You can feel curious instead. You can feel motivated or inspired. And any one of those will take you 10 times farther than regret. All right. The regret line number 4 is that it's just something that happens to us. Now, this one can be a little elusive, so stay with me. I've coached a lot of people who talk about spending so much money and time on like acupuncture, supplements, energy healing, coaching, therapy, nutritionists, invasive testing at their own request, international consultants for specialty things, all kinds of stuff. Now, let me make sure and level set. I don't think that any of these things are wrong or one is superior to another or anything like that. This isn't about the thing. It's about the underlying belief of, I don't want to regret not doing something. What you're telling me is that you believe that regret is just something that would happen to you and that it would be the result of something outside of you or something from your past, which is not true. Regret doesn't just happen to you. Regret is something you create within your brain with the stories that you believe. Again, this is not a jab at any of the things that I previously mentioned. I've done several of those things. It's about the belief that if you don't do them, you're going to open the door to beating yourself up over it. That's the optional part. If you believe that regret is somehow an inevitability based on right or wrong choices, then it means that you are much more susceptible to believe the first 3 lies about regret, and that cycle is not likely to end. So think about, if you don't do something, then you'll regret it. That already feels kind of terrible, right? It already feels pressured and stressed and maybe a little obligatory. But you are still choosing to do those things, right? Whatever it is, you can choose to do everything I listed and more without it being under the pretext of, well, if I don't do these things, then I'll regret it. Right? You could simply reframe it to, I am choosing to do these things to give myself XYZ, right? Whatever, a better shot, a more balanced experience, more support during this process, whatever it is, as long as you like your reasons. It is always your choice. You can choose right now, you guys, to not regret the past. If you choose to never think about things in a way that generates regret, you can just decide right now, no matter what, in 10 years, when you look back on whatever decision you've made, that you will have your own back and you'll say, hey, love, that's how I talk to myself. I say, hey, love, I got you. Thank you, past me, for making what seemed like the best choice at the time. I have 0 regrets. I've got your back. Okay, so those are the 4 lies about regret. But I also want to add this. There is another aspect of regret that I want to touch on that's outside of the lies that our brains believe about it. And it's that we tend to hold ourselves to the standard of knowledge that we have now to when we made that decision. I can't tell you how many people I have heard say, well, if I had known what I know now, but babe, you didn't. That's the point. You didn't know what you know now. Lived experience is the best and often the most excruciating teacher. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. When I'm teaching my clients about regret, I will often draw like a pie graph. Very poorly, but my clients are incredibly gracious. But I want you to try to visualize a pie graph, or if you're someplace that you could actually draw one, give it a try because it's a great reminder. I want you to draw a big circle. And then I want you to divide that circle by like 75%, 15%, and 10%. Now, if my math is mathing, that's 100%. Okay, so the section that is 75%, I want you to write or visualize the phrase, what we don't know, we don't know. The vast majority of our current experiences we try to make decisions on for the future based on incomplete information. We don't know what we don't know. That's not a crime. It's not a character defect. It's not intentional. If you waited to have children until your late 30s because you had no reason to suspect there would be any trouble, it was because you didn't know what you didn't know. Now, for the 15%, I want you to write what you know you don't know. This is a very small percentage of things that you are acutely or consciously aware of that you don't know. Again, it's not a problem. It just is. There are a lot of things that I don't know. That's not a problem. If you asked me about neuroscience, I could probably tell you a little bit. I could tell you a hell of a lot less than someone who specializes it. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with me that I don't know that information. And then for the last 10%, I want you to write what we know. This tiny, itty bitty pie sliver is actually what you know. It is dwarfed by the amount of things that you don't know that you don't know. So stop. Stop holding yourself to a standard that you had no idea existed at the time. Regret has zero value add in your life. Don't believe the lies about regret. It doesn't make you a better person. You don't deserve the punishment. It doesn't keep you in line. And it's not just something that happens to you. All right, my beautiful friends, that is what I have for you today. No regrets. Let's instead think about who we want to be today. What is the life we want to create starting today? It's such a better use of your brain and time. Okay, have a great week and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of IVF This. If you like what you've heard, click follow to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you want to learn more, head over to www.ivfthiscoaching.com to learn how we can work together.